seconds. KARK 4 News, now in high definition. Sponsored by your Central Arkansas Ford dealers. Now, your forecast first from KARK 4, your weather authority.
Good evening to you. A quiet night on the way across Central Arkansas. Temperatures overnight falling through the 80s into the upper 70s by tomorrow morning with mostly sunny skies to begin the day. But rainfall on the way for the weekend and a tropical system to discuss. Your news at 6 is next.
Coming up, breaking news. Little Rock philanthropist Jennings Osborne dies at 67. Next, today, new copper laws go into effect.
My photographer here, Matt, just came in and sold some scrap metal with y'all. And turns out that you guys weren't following the new law that took effect today.
And we go undercover to put them to the test. It's a KARK4 investigation. Plus, Arkansas earthquakes officially linked to disposal wells. And now one site is forced to shut down immediately.
Now, from the station you count on. In-depth, investigative, part of your community. This is KARK 4 News at 6 in high definition.
Breaking news happening now. One of Arkansas's most beloved philanthropists has passed away. Businessman Jennings Osborne died today in a Little Rock hospital.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Jancy Sheets.
And good evening, I'm Bob Clausen.
We do have some sad news to report to you tonight. Arkansas philanthropist Jennings Osborne has died today. He was 67 years old.
Mr. Osborne died of complications of a heart valve surgery. He had been ill for some time, spending about 100 days in the hospital. KARK4's Jessica Dean joining us now live with more on this breaking news story. Jessica.
Well, Bob and Jancy, we just received a statement from Osborne's daughter, Breezy, and it reads in part or in total, "My father was an amazing man who all my life showed what a big heart he had for everyone, young and old, and regardless of background or wealth. Sadly, my father's big heart finally gave out. But knowing my daddo, there will be fireworks at the gates of heaven, and we want to thank everyone from Arkansas and across the country for all their well wishes and prayers. It meant so much to my dad, me, and my mom." And you would be hard-pressed to find an Arkansan who was not touched by Jennings Osborne's generosity. He was famous for his big displays and his big heart. Osborne was very committed also to family, appearing often with his wife Mitzi and his daughter Breezy. Together as the Osborne family, they sponsored the Riverfest fireworks display and hosted huge tailgate parties, cooking barbecue out of an unforgettable hog-shaped smoker. He was perhaps best known by many Arkansans as the man behind the world-famous Christmas lights display. Millions of lights which attracted thousands of visitors to the Osbornes' then home on Cantrell Road. But after a legal battle over that lights display, Osborne ultimately donated parts of it to Walt Disney World, where he delighted in sharing it there with visitors. And one more story we want to tell you about Jennings Osborne. Back in the 90s, he wrote a letter to Lady Bird Johnson, who responded back to him. So they began corresponding with one another, and he and his family ultimately had dinner with Johnson many times in Austin. Osborne knew Johnson's love of flowers, so every Wednesday he had a dozen roses sent to her, and that went on for about 6 years. Quite a generous man. Bob, back to you.
Jessica, thanks very much. Just a snapshot of who Jennings Osborne was. And Bud Whetstone joining us now, a close friend of Mr. Osborne's. And, you know, it's one of those things, and over the past 20 years or so, covering Mr. Osborne, things he's done in the community, one word comes to mind when describing him, at least for me, and that's kind. But then you think, nice guys are supposed to finish last, and it wasn't the case, was it, Bud, with him?
No, it wasn't for Jennings. Jennings was the most generous individual that you'd ever want to meet. I think that a lot of people probably don't know what a family man he was. He was his family came first, and whatever Breezy wanted pretty much was going to be it. And it was quite something to see him.
Well, and that's something too that he enjoyed. You know, when he enjoyed sharing with so many other people, it was always family events, and that seems to have been the bedrock of who he was and what he did and why he did it.
Right, but he had a group of people, a very small group of people around him, like David Basil, and we would go to Razorback Stadium. He had a box up there on the 50-yard line, and you'd see the same people, but mostly it would be maybe my wife, David, Mitzi.
Many friends, few close friends.
But then there would be Breezy and all of her friends, whoever she wanted. So he was very, very generous with her.
And you mentioned too, when you would go on a trip with him, wherever it might be, you'd come home and then you would receive a gift afterwards.
Right.
We were just looking at a portion of what that might be.
You get a package in the mail of glossy photographs, large glossy photographs, and he would memorialize every trip that way. And so we have quite a few photographs of us. We went to Vegas, we went to Razorback Stadium many times, we went to Atlantic City.
What were some of the things that he would talk to you about one-on-one? Because we know about the lights, you know, we know about the barbecues and things like that. When he'd sit there and say, Bud, this is one thing that bothers me and it's something I'd like to correct.
Jennings would tell stories to me. Now, I don't think he did this with hardly anyone else. I never saw him do it with anyone else or ever heard of him do it, but he would tell me some story, and it would be some embarrassing thing that he had done. And when he'd get to the end of the story, he would say, how embarrassing. Can you imagine? He said, oh, I was so embarrassed when that happened. But some of the stories, he would be around the President of the United States, or different things that would happen. Governor Huckabee was trying to get an audience with George Bush Sr. And couldn't get one, or they couldn't line it up for whatever reason, and Jennings lined it up and took him down there.
That goes to show you.
But Jennings would, he wouldn't brag about stuff like it. He just talked about it as
he wasn't a braggadocious kind of guy.
No.
And I can only imagine the things that he has done throughout his life that we don't even know about. The list must be more lengthy than the things we do know.
If he read in the newspaper that some child had died in some tragic event, and obviously the people did not have the money to bury the child, he would just call and say, put that barrier right and put the bill on my tab, send it to me.
Wow, so this is just going to be, you know, one of so many stories we're going to hear throughout the next several days, next several weeks. Bud, thanks very much. How's the family doing?
It's a tough time for everybody, tough time.
Understand.
But they're strong people.
All right, Bud, thanks very much. Appreciate your time. Jancy.
And we also have a statement from Governor Beebe. Here's his response to Osborne's passing. Osborne brought comfort and entertainment to countless people, whether feeding disaster victims, donating fireworks, throwing unparalleled tailgate parties, or lighting up Disney World. While a larger-than-life public figure, Jennings was also a kind and soft-spoken man who always shared his financial success with others. To other news now, it has been a very busy summer for copper thieves, hitting area businesses, schools, even churches in recent months. Today, a new law takes effect. Now, along with other laws passed in the last 4 years, it aims at cracking down on the dealers who are buying stolen metal. But are those laws being upheld? Tonight, our staff went undercover to sell scrap metal in this KARK4 investigation.
Hopefully, with these additional measures, it should help a lot.
At Saul Allman Scrapyard in Little Rock, it's business as usual. Taking in thousands of pounds of scrap metal from individual sellers, the employees Wednesday took us through the proper sales process. A laundry list of legal requirements, a paper trail intended to catch criminals. Under laws passed in 2007 and in 2009, dealers must obtain a seller's personal information, their ID, their fingerprints, even a digital photo. But in the last legislative session, lawmakers passed a new set of requirements. As of Wednesday, a seller must provide in writing who they got the scrap metal from, the date and address where they obtained it. And they must also verify they haven't already been found guilty of selling stolen metal. If the dealer knowingly takes in stolen goods, they too are now guilty of a crime. We loaded up an unmarked vehicle with copper, legally obtained, randomly selected 2 dealers, and KARK chief photographer Matt Tebow, rolling video on his cell phone, rolled up to see how these dealers sell.
Don't got much, man.
At Reeves Recycling in North Little Rock, they followed some requirements of the new law.
Okay, if it's you put self. Okay. And put your phone number. And if you ever been convicted of stealing scrap metal, so we'll know and sign at the bottom.
But they didn't follow all of the old laws. For example, they didn't take Matt's fingerprint.
I got $38.
At the second dealer, Easter Scrap Metal, also in North Little Rock, they followed all of the old laws requirements, but not any of the new laws.
My photographer here, Matt, just came in and sold some scrap metal with y'all, and turns out that you guys weren't following the new law that took effect today.
Here we confronted the owner on why not. They declined to interview with us on camera, but said they were just confused on whether the forms needed to be electronic. They say they'll get in compliance as soon as possible. The dealer here and others we talked to say the new laws are a burden, but worth it, Larry Allman says, to crack down on crime.
We certainly want to do whatever we can to prevent any kind of metal theft. We want to be the solution, not the problem.
Well, you could see the smile on Matt's face there. Just from those two dealers with about 2 buckets worth of copper, we got about $80. It's that kind of easy money that the copper thieves are after. But if they get caught stealing metal, trying to sell it, it is considered a felony. They could go to prison. And under this new law that takes effect today, the dealers, too, if they knowingly take in stolen goods, could also go to jail and face fines. Jancy, back to you.
All right. Thanks a lot, Lauren. A major blow for the natural gas industry after hearing from the Arkansas Geological Survey down in El Dorado. The Oil and Gas Commission found disposal wells were responsible for a swarm of earthquakes in Faulkner County. The Oil and Gas Commission voted unanimously to shut down the last operating disposal well in the Greenbrier Guy area, and no more wells will be allowed. This after findings from an Arkansas Geological Survey report found more quakes when disposal rates were high and then lower rates when disposal wells stopped taking spent fracking fluid. It was good news for Maura Crumpton. Her family has owned land in rural Greenbrier for 130 years, and they're worried about the quakes and well water contamination. We were with her when she found out the wells were shutting for good.
This is fabulous.
So this is exactly what you're hoping for.
Absolutely. I am extremely happy about this.
Scott Osbrooks with the Arkansas Geological Survey says they believe activity at these 4 disposal wells is responsible for 1,200 earthquakes recorded in the Greenbrier Guy area since last fall.
Today, the trial continues for the man accused of murder, steps away from the front doors of the Conway Police Department. Cortez Waller has been charged with second-degree murder for the death of Christopher Childress. The whole ordeal caught on camera right here, the surveillance for the Conway Police Department. In fact, today, 2 officers testified. They watched the shooting go down from their window. Childress' girlfriend, Duranda Carter, also took the stand. Police say that she was also having a relationship with Waller. Prosecutor says their case will continue tomorrow. We'll keep you updated.
An escaped convict back behind bars tonight. 27-year-old Angel Gonzalez escaped from Little Rock Community Correction Center Saturday. He turned himself in late Tuesday night after DCC staffers worked to get him to surrender himself. Originally arrested on drug charges, he now faces additional escape charges and a possible prison term.
A former Microsoft executive taking the helm of one of Arkansas's largest data processing companies. 43-year-old Scott Howe has been named CEO and president of Axiom Corporation and says he's admired the company for a long time.
It's impossible to be in the marketing community and not be aware of Axiom. I mean, they have an incredible client base, a team that has a reputation for being innovators and pioneers, and have had a stream of successes for the last 30 years.
Mr. Howe comes from Seattle, Washington, and was selected by Axiom's board through Hedrick and Struggles, an executive search firm.
If you come out here, expect to get wet. Bubble Fest in full effect. Stay with us to find where you can get in on the fun.
Coming up in sports, yesterday we heard what Coach Petrino had to say about his incoming Razorbacks. Many analysts are saying the Hogs offense is dangerous, but what about Bama coach Nick Saban? We'll hear from him coming up.
This is KARK 4 News at 6 in high definition with Jancy Sheets, Bob Clausen, meteorologist Brett Cummins, and sports with sports director Carrie O'Hara.